Welcome back to another Subconscious Mind Mastery podcast. See that pause right there? Majana was remembering which podcast this is.
I noticed that.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, we've been doing a lot on the Fun Astrology podcast, and because that's daily, it kind of gets programmed into your mind, but we don't go into depth over there. This is the place where we unpack, and a couple of things happened here that I thought were worthy of some conversation. So I asked Majana to come in because really she has a better take and an experience with this directly. The platform of this is obviously what we're dealing with, the coronavirus 2020, although they're calling it COVID-19. But we were supposed to be in Florida this past weekend at an astrology conference that we were both very much looking forward to. And obviously it got canceled and put online, as it should have. Well, come to find out, the organizer of it, a gentleman in his 70s who is a major figure in the astrology world, got the coronavirus 3 weeks about before the event. And I'm not going to go into all the details because he did share the experience and then he put it on Facebook. So I'm totally comfortable talking about the situation in general. But he recovered. But the story of what he went through is worth some exploration because there's a definite spiritual meaning and interpretation to this. And Majana, you were saying that you feel that there's you're seeing a spiritual turn on social media too.
I am, and maybe I'm just having really cool people in my feed, but but I saw first, before all of this started, there was a lot of political bashing and bantering, so I really was non-present. But then when the quarantine and these things progressed, it shifted to much more of a looking for humor. How can we support each other? It was fun, a lot of positive stuff. And now the last couple of days, I'm seeing another shift to more spiritual, people having some what they would consider paranormal experiences that they're sharing, and just realizing even visits from loved ones. So I think there is a spiritual component that is now coming forth and being acknowledged.
Yeah, we've seen the loved ones quite a bit.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Okay, so let's just go through a little bit of the details of this story. So symptoms began suddenly. That's a common thing that we've been seeing. He talked about being weak and dizzy, like going to the bathroom was a major effort because of the dizziness and the weakness. He said a quarter of his body turned bright red from some kind of a rash for a few days.
I hadn't heard of that one.
That was interesting. He said it felt like every muscle in his body was tired, as if it had been exercising all day, and the pain went through his entire body. Now, that's all pretty common to what we've been seeing. He talked about sleep being a big healer, and also talked about Tiger Balm. Rubbing on his chest made it a lot easier to breathe, if you're familiar with Tiger Balm. So he said in a few days he started to feel better and then had the relapse, and that was another part of the thing that has been common. Now, I don't know the rest of you, and Majana, I don't know about what you're seeing on Facebook, but I know about, I'm going to say 6 to 8 people, 6 to 8 people who have had the virus. And this is one of the things that is coming through. He said, as he was talking about the sleep, he said fortunately he could sleep a lot, but he said there were some intense dreams and some extreme feelings that he said I won't go into now.
Yeah.
Now, we're starting to see that as a common pattern. Intense dreams, like awakenings.
Right. Well, intense dreams, that's where a lot of people are saying, in fact, some have referred to them as hallucinations, that their loved ones have come to see them. And I would challenge that maybe as hallucinations and actual visitations.
You know who else we heard about this from publicly is Chris Cuomo.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a job qualification. Say your name 5 times fast. Chris Cuomo from CNN talked about having hallucinations or images.
And he said it was his dad.
Yes. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Which would make total sense, right? his dad, the former governor of New York, Mario Cuomo. So that could make total sense. Another piece of his story that I found very interesting was listening to his body. He was listening to his body as far as medications that he was taking that would work or not work. Now, this was all at home. He was not in the hospital. And he was talking about foods. Like during the peak of it, reduced down to 300 to 500 calories. Said it was a struggle to just get some oatmeal down, but knew his body needed the nutrition.
So he forced himself to eat 3 times a day.
So he was really in tune and listening to his body. Now, Majana, almost 2 years ago now, had major back surgery and went through what to her was the most excruciating pain that she had ever been through up to that point. You came through it. You said that you had a lot of these same perceptions.
I did. When I read this, I mean, I got a little emotional, actually, because it resonated so deeply and really put this in maybe a different perspective. Because when I read this, the spiritual component is what jumped out at me. The similarities was really listening to and honoring your body, which was very clear to me what was acceptable to put into it and what was not, and how much. That was very, very clear, and I love that this guy was honoring that as well. The other thing that just grabbed me about this was he talked about strong emotions. He said really strong feelings, especially the feeling of love and connection to family and friends. And you know what? I had forgotten about that piece until I read it from him. And this is when I got a little emotional, because even before my surgery, leading up to it with the incredible pain that I was having during that part, waiting for the surgery, and then it still continued after, were just the feelings and a lot of the memories, some memories of really what would seem like absolutely silly things, but would make me start crying because I missed it so much, a connection. Like being being a kid and going to a specific grocery store with my mom and sister. Oh my gosh, right? But there was just some stuff, conversations and so forth around that it was a sense of connection. And so what he talked about was actually gaining strength from that connection and realizing that those family members and close friends love you. And that is a pillar of strength for you. And that's exactly what it felt like for me, too.
Here's another amazing, this from his own words, just a quick 2 sentences here. My biggest recommendation for anyone who gets infected with the coronavirus is to be patient, determined, and do not get alarmed. Think about how we are all interconnected and how some people really love you. That struck a chord with you also.
It did, yeah. Just the other thing, and this is kind of a piece of that, is that intense love for yourself as well as for others. So for me, in the hospital, when I had a lapse in pain meds, and the pain and the muscle spasms were so intense, I literally left my body and saw my emotional, physical, and spiritual bodies and how they were processing and dealing with the pain. So I survived that by sending my body, sending myself intense love to those specific areas that hurt. And so when he was talking about that, it resonated again. It brought that feeling back to me to really lean on that and know it's available.
And then the other piece of this is sending love and sending healing energy to another person.
Yeah. Someone asked one time, how does that even work? You're not praying or asking for healing yourself or support, so how does that work? And in my mind, as soon as she said this is what I got. When a group of people are praying for or sending love, sending energy to someone, it's like that person is in the center and it's a wheel and everybody is surrounding them, and the spokes of the wheel are all downloading, like each individual is downloading this energy from source, this extra energy, and sending it, channeling it to where they're focusing. So that person in the middle of the wheel is receiving all of this beautiful energy from all the spokes.
That's cool. I think, do you not agree that you can shift outcomes through sending that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
A lot of stories around the power of collective consciousness.
Yes.
Call that prayer.
Yeah, absolutely.
Or call it collective consciousness, but a bunch of people setting the same intentions for another. Or in this case, we can walk it back a step for our planet.
Yeah. And you know what got me with this is, okay, step back. And could this be part of the greater purpose? Is this, we've talked about Saturn and Pluto, and that we're in the throes of shaking the establishment and the foundation, and we're coming out bigger and brighter and stronger. Is this virus a piece of that? Does this have a spiritual component to help us step through this and come out a little higher vibration, a little more love-based? He said in this document that he wrote that he is changed. He said this has forever changed him. I can tell you that surgery experience changed me drastically.
Yeah, in fact, on his Facebook post, in his own words, he said, after the illness, everything looks miraculous and precious. It changed me in some deep way that is difficult to verbalize.
Amen.
Wow. Well, so a couple of takeaways. First thing I think of is a line from the last audiobook that we did for Stephen Forrest, or the first one, the Book of Fire, the one that's out now, the Book of Fire, where he said, the universe is going to accomplish certain things.
Right.
There are different paths and ways that it can be. This is not a quote. This is a summation. There are different ways that purpose or that path can be accomplished. And we get to choose if we're going to do it the hard way or the easy way.
Yep.
Right?
The cosmic 2x4.
Yeah. So the point of this, the moral of this story is, let's choose to do it the easy way. And what I'm thinking is, what we've been saying about Saturn and Pluto the whole way through this, is to get on the side of the transformative energy. So how do you do that? By a bunch of releasing resistance.
Yeah.
Let it be. And I know we've all been shocked and mystified and horrified, and I know some of you have been furloughed or terminated or lost your independent contractor contracts. There is uncertainty with this galore. We had basically a depression level, almost unemployment number come out this week. So where this is all headed, we don't know. You know, like you were saying, the master plan of this. I've been down so many rabbit holes over about the last 3 weeks, and I've just released because whatever this is has not fully shown its full hand yet. And when it does, we'll know more. Until then, we just really at this point, I don't think know. But I do agree, and the one thing you can count on is there are a lot of very conscious spiritual people that if this does not make some major, massive changes to the brokenness of this world, are going to be really pissed off.
That's for sure. I'm going to feel deceived.
You can be like, God, we were so close. Did we have to go through that?
But yet, also, and I don't think it's overnight. It's a process, and I think this is part of that process.
It sure seems like every indication is pointing to that. The other thing that I think we can do is just to be intentional about wanting to do the work ourselves. So this is all about transforming areas of our life that aren't working. So we've done a number of podcasts on this. You can walk your way back to last fall from this podcast backward, and you'll hear a lot of the things that we've already talked about. But the main point, I think, is to release those areas of resistance, capture what can be modified or improved in your life, and then do the opposite. Find what is the 180-degree opposite of that. Take a picture of what that looks like. Implement that so that you go from kind of one extreme to another, and then find your bandwidth somewhere in between. It may not be the radical 180. Maybe it's just a 90 or a partial, but just do something in an opposite direction of what doesn't serve you. And if you will do that and just ask the universe and set the intention to say, I really want to do this work, and you're doing your journaling every day, and not from a point of fear or resistance of the virus.
Right.
But you're just setting up, if you're doing the work, maybe you don't need it. Go back to Stephen Forrest. Hey, universe, let's do it the easy way.
Let's. And keep in mind, we are all works in progress. So, yes, do the work and realize that you are human and there are going to be days where you have setbacks, and grant yourself grace and grant those other people grace that are struggling through it as well, and maybe don't see it through your eyes and need extra love and grace.
There's one other thought. We'll conclude with this. There's a video that I shared on my personal page on Facebook. I didn't put it in Subconscious Mind Mastery. I guess I could. But it's a healthcare worker, a nurse, who's on the front lines. She's treating coronavirus or COVID-19 patients. She comes outside to just take her mask off and take a break. She pulls her phone out and records about 10 or 12 minutes of a very passionate, basically emotional breakdown. And what it triggered for me, I know some people could maybe watch that and not be moved by it or even be turned off by it, because she was being emotional. I mean, she was having a moment. But what it did for me is listening to her very compelling, where she's saying, these people are dying, and they're dying in 2 days. They're coming in here, they were fine 1 minute and they're gone the next, and they're dying without their families. And it was just a very emotional moment that made me want to hug and love and call and say, I love you.
I appreciated that moment.
And I say it again to you. I love you and I appreciate you. And the thing is to do that not in the context of when you can't. And that was her point.
Yeah.
So bless her dear heart. I don't know her name, where she is geographically, but she said she was going to go back up there because she said I could walk away from it, but that's not why I'm here. And I'm here to hold these people's hands as they grasp for their last breath of air. And the point is, if you're listening to this, chances are you're not there. And say I love you before or while you still can.
Yes. And I think this is just a good reminder. I mean, I'm always adamant about that, right? You just never know. And this is a really vivid reminder.
So we'll leave you with that. I mean, just the thought of find somebody to either say, I love you or thank you. And do it every day. And from Majana and me to you, we love you. And we'll all get through this together.
We will. Better and stronger.
It kind of is a little bit hard to say right now, but this is what we need to do. Enjoy the journey, because it's the only one we've got. We'll see you soon. Thanks for listening.